Continuing this wonderful conversation with the former governor of the state of California, the Honorable George Duekmejian. Governor, let's switch to the national scene, and obviously the Republican primary is ongoing. What's your observation of what's going on there?
Well, it's been very unique. We haven't had this type of campaign in the past where you had a great many of these so-called debates going on. And so the people are having an opportunity to get acquainted with the various candidates who are running. And then, of course, we are always the recipients of all these instant polls that are taken. So there's always a poll, and somebody is up and somebody is down and so on. It's probably a good thing in the long run for the candidates, whoever finally gets the nomination, that they've been through sort of this process. But at the same time, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and I certainly feel like among Republican voters, there's no clear choice. But we're probably getting to a point where there's going to be one or two that will be considered leaders because of the way in which they're coming out on the polls. And finally, once the caucuses start and the primaries start, we'll eventually come out with a candidate. I think, though, that the election is going to really simply focus on whether or not the public wants President Obama to have a second term or not.
Isn't that normal that when an incumbent is running for second term, it's really a referendum on him?
It is, but at the same time, there is the factor of, is his opponent somebody who is perceived to be a strong enough leader to take the country forward, to make sure that we have an improvement in the economy and in our relationships with other countries. And I don't think at this point in the process, I don't think that there's any one particular candidate on the Republican side that has captured that kind of support from the voters. And I think mainly the view is, should President Obama get a second term? And secondly, which of the candidates might have a good opportunity to be able to defeat him in a general election?
Do you perceive any of the candidates as fitting the criteria you just mentioned?
Well, as of today, I haven't come up with a real strong feeling on behalf of one particular candidate. I think that we are going to eventually say, do we want this president and his administration to have another term or not? And if the answer by the voters is no, then obviously his opponent will be the winner.
Many have observed that the Republicans seem to be obstructing the president's program and things that may arguably be good for the country, like the payroll tax, the reduction in the payroll tax extension, because if the economy is obviously a huge issue, and politically, if the economy is still in the tank or bad, that's good for the Republicans. If it should improve, that's good for the incumbent president. So Republicans seem to have a little divided loyalty as to whether they want to do what's good for the country or what's good for the party.
Well, I think the president has done a very, very good job in portraying that the Republicans are only in favor of helping wealthy people. And I think that some of the statements and the policies of the leadership in the Congress on behalf of Republicans has not done a good job of fully explaining why they are taking the positions that they are. So, you know, a president has a lot of tools that he can work with, and he's got the so-called bully pulpit, and now the president is involved really in the beginning of his campaign for re-election, and the incumbent president decidedly has a full advantage. The Republican side, in my opinion, so far, hasn't really made a strong case.
There's many Americans, including yours truly, that feel that Wall Street played a major role in causing the meltdown. And we, the taxpayers, through TARP and other programs, bailed out the banks. We saved them, literally. And many of them are back to business as usual with foreclosures and credit tricks and all. Your view on whether Wall Street appropriately is culpable in causing some of our problems?
Well, they've had a role, there's no question about it. But also, when you stop and look, most of the major players in Wall Street have been big supporters of the president.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it's
they're everywhere.
They sure are. And I think the administration could be much stronger in curtailing a lot of the types of activities that have led to these difficulties coming out of Wall Street.
The Republicans blocked Elizabeth Warren, clearly one of the most qualified people in America to head that new consumer agency. She's now running for Senate in Massachusetts. And they don't want someone strong in that regulatory role. But it just seems to me that some of the outgrowth of the Occupy movement, they did hit a sensitive spot in the American psyche that Wall Street does have something to do with the lack of jobs and the foreclosures that we're going through today.
But at the same time, Republicans in the Congress believe, and I think justifiably, that there are many, many regulatory agencies already in existence who have the responsibility of ensuring better practices, and that we don't need additional agencies to come in with more regulatory power. One of the big problems we have as far as the economy is the additional expenses that are involved in trying to conduct a business because of perhaps an overburdened regulatory system.
And look how effective Texas, Governor Perry was in town recently and pointed out that 40% of the new jobs in the last 4 years were created in Texas, and they have a low tax regime and a much more modest regulatory regime, and they're taking a lot of our jobs.
When I first became governor, we made it a point to look through all of the rules and regulations that were in existence in the state, and upwards of 50,000, as I recall, and it's been a long time ago, but as I recall, about 50,000 of these rules and regulations, we either were able to modify them or in some cases repeal them, and we helped to create a good business climate during the 1980s. And because of that good business climate, we had much more investment in the state, and we didn't do it, it was done in the private sector, but we helped to create nearly 3 million new jobs in those 8 years during the 1980s. So you've got to have a good business climate, and one of the places you want to look at is, is there an overburdensome regulatory atmosphere in a jurisdiction?
And just for the record, those changes and elimination of regulations were made without sacrificing public safety or health.
Yeah, when no one ever charged us at the end of the 8 years with creating an unsafe atmosphere.
Okay, we'll be continuing this wonderful conversation with the governor after these messages. Stay with us. We are back. Governor, I think I know the answer to this question, but do you miss not being in the public eye?
No, I don't miss it. I don't miss it a bit. I'm too happy these days.
You really seem to be very happy, and so it's not something that you need for your psyche or ego or anything else.
No, 28 years in public office is enough.
That's enough. Very quickly, on the debt, which seems to be just going out of control, and both parties do share blame. I mean, George W., president, fought a war without asking the country to pay for it with taxes and just go out and shop. How do we get out of this debt, this spiraling debt situation?
Well, again, it takes a lot of straight focus, and it takes a lot of courage, so to speak, and you've got to be able to say no. a lot of people in public office don't know how to say no. And I used to be criticized very often, but as I say, by making sure that you try to live within your means, that's good for everybody. It's good for the taxpayers, it's good for the businesses, for the economy, and so on, to have balanced budgets and to have good fiscal responsibility.
Well, maybe we should, I think it was Nancy Reagan who had the slogan, just say no, in a different context.
Right.
Should apply that to our legislators.
Well, unfortunately, most of them are not willing to do that.
Some earlier commentators said democracy is doomed when the people realize they hold the key to the treasury.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be back with the remaining portions of our show after these messages.
Welcome to McKenna's on the Bay, where fine dining is complemented with a breathtaking view. McKenna's is a restaurant of incredible ambiance, providing service and cuisine with style, class, and romance. The menu offers a variety of appetizers, serious seafood, prime steaks, an oyster bar, and specialty entrees for either lunch or dinner. McKenna's on the Bay features patio dining, nightly entertainment, and 2 banquet facilities. No matter what your occasion, McKenna's on the Bay is like being on vacation. Join us today at McKenna's on the Bay.
Founded in 1976, Polly's Gourmet Coffee is Southern California's most complete gourmet coffee store. Polly's has the best tasting coffee, freshly roasted every day right in the store, plus a wide selection of teas, an in-house bakery, espresso bar, patio dining, and more. We also offer Wi-Fi, free internet access for all of our customers. Our nationwide clientele agree when it comes to coffee, there's only one name to remember: Polly's. 4606 East 2nd Street, welcoming you into Belmont Shore.
Take care of those who are closest to you, from our family to yours. McCarty's Jewelry, since 1932.
How do you like your chances the rest of the way?
I got no idea. But I do know that if we stay with Naples Rib Company, at least we won't go hungry.
Coach, what do you think about some of those questionable calls tonight?
Yeah, but if you want a sound call, I'd call Naples Rib Company. You can't miss on that call.
Then Naples Rib Company is part of your game plan?
There really is nothing more motivating than a great barbecue meal at Naples Rib Company.
Victory or not, Naples Rib Company, great game plan.
I think California was very fortunate to have a public servant of the quality of George Duekmejian, who, as we mentioned earlier, served in the state assembly, state senate, attorney general, and then 8 years of governor. And the state is much better off for his service and leadership. So, Governor, thank you for your public service, and thank you for coming on our show. We have 30 seconds. You can say whatever you would like.
Well, I just want to congratulate you for being on the air for 20 years. 20 years with Straight Talk. That's quite an accomplishment, and I want to commend you for it.
Well, thank you very much, Governor, and thank you. I know you don't do many media appearances. We thank you very much for joining us during our 20th anniversary year. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you at home for being with us for our first show of the new year. Please keep joining us each week as we continue to celebrate our 20th anniversary season. Good night, everyone.
Straight Talk has been brought to you by Southern California Edison, the Press Telegram, and remember, Straight Talk is viewable worldwide 24/7 at straighttalktv.com.